Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Typically I'd be making a video like this after I uploaded some footage and all the footage from my events throughout the year at this point. However, my channel's been dead lately since May is the last time I posted because I have a 1-year-old now and I have the second one on the way any day now. So this is the end of 2021 and I'll just give a quick summary of how the S2000 is and the events I did, the changes I made to the car for 2021. Let's get right into it. So you guys have been asking a lot about the CR replica wing I did. I did the DIY on how to modify the trunk and install that properly and did kind of a quick review on the quality of the EOS replica CR wing. So check those out if you haven't already on my channel. So overall, there's been no issues with the wing at all. So besides the wing, the only other change I made to the car for 2021 was the tires. Still on the 200 tread wear and running in the SCCA classes that have no aero, so STR for autocross and tuner series for time trials, the SCCA time trials program. And with the addition of the CR wing and going to a Nankang CR1 tire, I was bumped into the mod class for the S2K Takeover series. So for the CR1 tires, you guys already know, if you watched my previous video, I went with a 245 this year versus the previous 255 square setup I did with the Bridgestone RE71Rs, mainly because the 245 fits a 9-inch wheel better than a 255, and it gave a little smaller diameter, which gets the car a little lower to the ground and a little bit better gearing for acceleration. My car doesn't really have a header, full-blown custom tune or anything. It's got the high flow cat, stock header, and just the Tanabe medallion, which is now called the Revel medallion. Touring exhaust, which is 60mm piping, so that's pretty much the exact same diameter as stock. So the tune on the car, if you guys aren't familiar with the car, is the Greddy E-Manage Carceps STR tune, and it's been running flawless for all the years I've had it on the car, no problem. I haven't had any issues with the E-Manage at all. Passes inspection because it's not actually replacing the factory ECU. So that's been really convenient just to roll into the dealer and get this inspected every year without changing anything. All right, so let's talk about the events I did in 2021. I started off in April at Palmer Motorsports Park. So in 2020, I went there once, and of course the car didn't have a CR wing, and I was on the Hankook 255 square RS4 tires. And that track was pretty terrifying without any kind of rear wing or anything. I started to get the hang of it. I went there on Track Night in America, so the sessions were very busy and I couldn't get many clean laps to figure out the track. But I ended up getting down to like a 156 in 2020 so there. Immediately when I got on track at Palmer, I felt a lot more comfortable with the CR wing and the tires specifically. Those two changes to the car got me from the 156 in 2020 down to a 148.6. The rear end did feel a little more stable on that downhill straight. We were running counterclockwise, so I was able to keep it to the floor in 5th gear the whole way down that curved front stretch, and would hit about 124, 125 miles an hour before turn 1, brake hard, and then dive into turn 1. I was not able to do that with the RS4s and no wing. The car felt pretty sketchy at that high of a speed. But I will say the combination of the wing and the stickier 200 treadwear tires really made the car handle exactly where I wanted. I was very confident in this car all year and really enjoy the driving dynamics of it with the OEM aero. So I shaved just about 8 seconds off my lap time at Palmer, which was the biggest takeaway of the year. And that I was glad to get there in April because later in the year I went there in July for the SCCA Time Trial National Tour, which I'll talk about in a minute here. So the next event I went to was pretty much my home track, the New York State Safety Track. I went there in May. They did it, S2K Takeover did a 2-day event there, but I only ran on Friday, I believe, which was the usual uptown configuration. I've never ran downtown there, but they did run downtown on Thursday. In 2020, with the RS4s and no CR wing, I went 138.8 there, which I felt was one of the hardest laps I've ever pushed the car. Now back in 2021, I dropped down a little, about 1.5 seconds. My new PB I set there was a 137.4, which for an OEM aero car, naturally aspirated, pretty much stock power car, I feel is like one of the best times without getting into a big wing and splitter and whatnot. So I was very happy putting that time down. I would say the Nankang CR1s are even much faster than the Bridgestone RE71Rs I ran for the last 2 years prior to 2020. So after the New York State Safety Track, I went back to Lime Rock with Metro Track Addicts for an afternoon after work. Now Lime Rock is actually the closest track to me. I live in the Hudson Valley, New York area, so it's only an hour or so from where I work. And great way to spend my afternoon after work. We had 3 sessions on track with an intermediate and advanced only, so there was really good open track to get some laps in. However, the weather didn't really cooperate with us. It must have been 95 degrees and like 100% humidity, and it actually started downpouring midway through my 3rd session, my last session. But with all that said, the car did go faster. I dropped from a 102.6 down to a 1 minute 0.9, so I broke into the 1 minute club at Lime Rock. Felt very confident in that lap. I think it would have been a little quicker if the conditions were a little bit better. I think the car was robbed on horsepower a little bit that day because of how humid and sticky the air was. Tires probably got a little bit washed out after a few laps too, but started to get the rhythm at Lime Rock and really enjoyed driving that track, and would love to get back there in the future, being that it's so close to me. I don't think the car is quite capable in its current form of braking under 1 minute with having the OEM Aero and the 200 treadwear tires, but as the 200 treadwear tires still continue to get faster, it may be able to be possible to get under the 1 minute mark there in the future. So after Lime Rock, we went back to Syracuse, New York to do Pine View Run again. Now, last time I was there on the RS4s and the no wing, I went a 115.8, which I wasn't too happy with because some of the other guys with full aero were running in the low 113s to high 112, which I believe is the S2000 record there, is a high 112 lap. I knew I had a lot of room to improve there, being that it's a slower track, more of an autocross style track where the aero wasn't really getting them that big of an advantage on me. So the conditions were ideal. We ran some hard laps. That track is very exhausting to run hard for a full session because you never get a break. There's really no straightaways to ever get yourself a break at that track. But I dropped down from a 115.8 to a 113.5. I doubled down and did 2 113.5s back to back. I don't really know where else I could have saved more time there. I really pushed the car to the limit of the tire's grip every lap. So on the July 3rd weekend, in the last 2 years, in 2019 and 2020, I've been going to Thompson Motorsports Park for the SCCA Time Trial National Tour. This year was at Palmer Motorsports Park again. I was there in April, as I just mentioned, and I was ready to go. I felt confident the car was going to do well. However, the weekend was almost a washout, and I had to run many sessions with this car in the rain, which was extremely sketchy and twitchy in this car in the rain. I will say the CR1 tires did not give me a high level of confidence in the rain. I bet a Yokohama AO52, it looked like, was the better wet tire to have. The weather god stayed on my side and gave me like 2 or 3 dry sessions to get a time in both days, to where I was able to win Tuner 4 out of over 10 drivers and finish 6th overall. I think I was in 4th overall after day 1. My best lap for the July event at Palmer was a 148.9, so it's 0.3 slower than my time in April. I had a lot more open track, I'd say, in April. A lot of my time during the SCCA event was spent trying to get around people because we were gridded based on our wet runs, so I was starting towards the back in the session, and then when we hit dry runs later in the day, I still had to start in the back and had to work around a few guys to get a good clean lap in. So definitely a lot more open air when I was there in April to really dial in the laps, but still was enough to get me where I needed to be to take the win.
And in the cheater car, on S2000, total time 5 minutes 25 seconds, best lap 148.9. Let's get it done in the S2000. Nicholas Austin, where you at?
So I did some autocross again with Mohud SCCA in between these track events. So there was a large gap kind of in between my SCCA time trial event and the next track day I did at Watkins Glen, which was my first time at Watkins Glen. Mohud had 5 autocross events this year, and I was able to make 4 of them. The car, you know, being set up for STR and everything, I don't really touch anything on it between track and autocross, which is a big takeaway for the multi-purpose use of this car. Very competitive in autocross. However, in the first event in May that I showed up to, I had a family emergency and had to leave after just getting one run. So my first run of the day was my best time of the day, obviously, and it actually still was good enough to get me 3rd place overall in the packs, and 2nd place in the pro class. And the remaining 3 events I made for the autocross, I did end up taking 1st place packs overall in all 3 events, and obviously 1st place in the pro class on all 3 events. However, in regards to the overall season points, I wasn't able to rack up enough bonus points by missing one event and not getting extra points for being at all the events. And that 2nd place on the 1st event hurt me to where I got 2nd place in pro class overall for the year. So now fast forward to October, I was getting the car prepped to go to Watkins Glen on a Sunday night. It was a Monday-Tuesday event, and this is what I found on the left front of my car. This is a Rebastos ST43 pad. It's got a little bit of sloped wear to it there. Backing plate's still straight. However, I learned real quick that this wasn't going to last 2 days at Watkins Glen. So I was scrambling to come up with ideas. Now the weird thing about this is these ST43 pads had over 50% life left before its SCCA time trial at Palmer. So I didn't even think to inspect them very thoroughly before Watkins, because I got 12 track days out of them before the SCCA event. You know, I started running these in the beginning of 2020. So the half the pad lasted about 12 track days, and then the SCCA event at Palmer took this one from 50% down to almost the backing plate, which was definitely unexpected. So I was scrambling to come up with pads for Watkins, and I was able to find 3 different sets, which I ran throughout both days. The set on the car right now are some EBC yellow stuff pads from like 2010. So the other pads I was able to throw on the car were Project Mu HC 800s the first day, and then the second day I swapped on some Carbotech XP10s that had about 30% life left, but they had very even wear. So I was pretty confident throwing the XP10s on the car to lap at Watkins and push hard for a good lap. It was a little discouraging to go there with not being able to trust my pad of choice and running full, mostly used pads and stuff up front. But I ended up having a great time and set a pretty good lap at Watkins Glen too. I did a 212.4, and for a super high speed track, not having anything more than the car's current setup, I felt was a very, very respectable time, and I was happy with it. And I had such an awesome time on track running with the SGTK Takeover guys. So yeah, overall you can see that we made improvements at every track this year, set new PBs at every track I went to. Got to go to Watkins Glen, set a really good time there. And the biggest takeaway of it all is the car never skipped a beat at any event. I never had anything break, never had any issues. So thanks guys for watching. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about how the car has changed with the CR wing and whatnot, and if you can feel a change at high speeds and whatnot. I would definitely say yes. Over like 80 or 90 miles an hour, the car definitely felt a lot more stable than when I was running it in 2020. I don't know if it was 100% being the wing or the tires definitely helped too, but this combination really dialed this car in this year to just really have fun with it, enjoy, and also make it still a streetable setup. It's, no aftermarket aero components are on this car to where you have to worry about driving it on the street and scraping on stuff. It's still a dailyable ride height. So the times speak for themselves. The wing did its job this year. I will post a separate video showing some footage and a more in-depth review on my thoughts on the wing, the EOS replica wing, but overall I have nothing but positive things to say about the wing and how the car was set up this year. Hope you guys stay tuned. I'll be uploading the footage of all these events here shortly, probably just mostly focused on my best laps, but also some extra laps in there. So leave a comment, let me know what you guys think. I hope to get some more of these videos out here shortly, and I'll see you in the next one.